Manchester, to the home of legendary hardman and underworld figure Wayne Barker. Wayne was a former professional boxer who had his first pro fight against Jeff Aspel in 1979. Wayne's from Salford, and the fights behind closed doors in his boxing gym are legendary. Two men had a problem, Wayne would close the doors and they would have to sort it out bare-knuckle. Wayne is a legend of a man, and his reputation carries all over the UK. But growing up as a kid, Wayne was trained by the one and only Big Just Burton. Uri Burton, king of the gypsies, before Bartley Gorman. This is a podcast about Wayne Barker, and I speak to the close people around him and his family members on his life.
My dad couldn't control me. I was fighting. There's people coming to the house all the time, and it was always mive about me fighting. And I didn't see anything wrong in me fighting, to be quite truthful. I liked it. I enjoyed it, And that's not to say I'm a bully. It's just what I did and just what I liked.
My name's Decker Heggie, and welcome to the official All or Nothing podcast documentary. Today, I'm here to talk about Wayne Barker's life. Wayne Barker was a Manchester legend, a fighting man, a hard man, and a family man. I'm here to bring you an insight into Wayne Barker's life.
You walked in the room, he'd be leaning on the radiator in his white shirt and his what do you call them? I forgot what you call them.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Smelling of his Curious aftershave and his big WB ring, and he's one of them guys. If you went into a room, everyone would stop talking. Everyone would stop talking and look, and that's just that was just his appearance. He was one of them guys. He was old school. He looked like a 1950s gangster.
Yeah.
And that's everybody respected Wayne. It's everybody respected him, and he had that kind of thing about him, that image, that appearance, because everybody looked at him and go, "Fucking hell, who's he?" So even that just sort of like makes you stop and think, who's this guy here? And so yeah, everybody who met him obviously had that respect for him.
My father would not come out. You wouldn't see my dad in a pair of jeans. You wouldn't see him in a tracksuit. He was suited and booted every day of his life. Every day of his life, whether he was going and sitting in a living room all day. You would not see him. We're young men. We put jeans on, we put tracksuits on, because that's our era. Yeah. My dad grew up in a time when everyone wore suits. And he's passed it on to us. We when we need to go out and we go on meetings, we're suited and booted and we dress, and we can walk into a room in a tracksuit and control the room. We can walk in jeans and a suit and we control the room. That's just how we've got that classic style of dress sense and how to carry ourselves.
He was a fighting man, as everyone knows, and he taught us to fight. But he was also very into sports. And from being a very young age, I was always encouraged to do sports, either boxing, football, basketball, swimming, triathlons. He never let me play rugby though. He let me do boxing, but he never let me play rugby. I had a trial for Oldham Town, and he never let me go. So he said it was too dangerous.
He was a hard man, but a lot of times he was fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times it was fair. I'll say it was fair. So I know he's done a lot of things I'm not supposed to, but who's not done something not supposed to in life? And then that was his way. It was Wayne's way on a lot of times, or no way.
There's an old character still around in Manchester. He's 80-odd-year-old called Curly Lowe. Very, very well known, Kenneth Lowe. I would suppose you would determine Ken Curly Lowe as an old school sort of gangster sort of fella, you know. And him and my father took me to a gypsy encampment in Partington. Introduced me to a man called Hughie Burton, also known as Big Just, Uriah Burton, king of the gypsies. He was a fist fighting man. And for want of a better expression, I was deposited there. And it was really, when in hindsight, when you look back, I'm a mature man now, and I look back at my life and I think, really surreal, really, when you think about it. You know, there's like hundreds of travellers on this site, and I couldn't speak Romany. And I had a bit of a tough time about it as it went, you know. And but for the tough times, there was good times. I was messing with horses. I learned to ride. I learned about chicken fighting. I learned how to get a living. I learned to live on my wits. And I was pitted against young boys around my own age, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old boys. And I'd be 12, 13-year-old. And I won a few and I lost a couple, and then we went over to Ireland, and I had a few fights at Phoenix Park, and I fought Cashel horse fair in Tipperary. We used to go to all the horse fairs and Ballinasloe. Fighting young boys my own age, you know, bits of sport, 20, 30 pounds, whatever a man could afford. You did weigh it up, you was similar age, similar size, similar weight, and you'd get to it. Some you'd win, some you'd lose, you know. But there was no animosity about it. It was a sporting thing, a cultural thing really, a gypsy cultural thing. And although I'm not a gypsy, I was accepted into that culture eventually, you know.
By the time Barker was 14 years old, his adopted gypsy family had arranged his first fight for money.
On the Saturday evening, Eugene told me, "You're fighting tomorrow." So I said, "Okay." Didn't think nothing of it. I thought I was fighting a boy, you know. Next morning, I was told I was fighting Jimmy. And I knew Jimmy was a man. He was 36 years old, and he was a fit man. He wasn't a fat 36, he was ripped to death. And I remember sitting on the grass thinking, this is a bit heavy. Am I going to get through this or what, you know? But we had a fight, we had gloves on. 49 men paid £1 a piece to watch it. It was a winner-take-all. And that was really the start of my professional fighting career, because that was the first time I'd ever been paid to fight, properly paid, you know. I mean, we had little bets and different things as a kid, but I'd fought a man, and I thought, I'm a man now, I beat a man. I don't want to fight boys no more. I didn't fight any more boys. It was 18, 19-year-old young men I was fighting.
So my dad considered himself as a man at 14-year-old. And if you're a 14-year-old beating men, you're a man, aren't you?
To be honest with you, mate, if you're getting trained by Just Burton, the king of the gypsies, and this was, if anybody that doesn't know Big Just Burton, there was Bartley Gorman. Before Bartley Gorman, there was Big Just Uriah Burton. He was the king of the gypsies. He trained your father.
Yeah.
And for him to train your father and take your father under his wing.
He didn't just train my father, you know. He was like a father figure to me dad,
Yeah.
you know. He taught him a lot of life lessons. He taught him how to fight. He taught him about how chicken fights and how to ride and look after horses. He taught him how to be a man.
Yeah.
He taught him how to be a man, and he taught him a way of life. He taught him how to hustle, and he was out with the boys hustling, you know. So,
did you ever meet Big Just?
No, I never.
Would you have liked to?
I would have loved to meet him, yeah.
Did your dad always speak very highly of
Very
Just?
highly of him, yeah, very highly of him. There is a story of this man. When his father died, he kidnapped 100 men. 100 men he kidnapped to build a monument. The monument's still there now in Wales, on the top of an hill. And he kidnapped men. He wasn't just men. He was gangsters, quality street men. He took them all and he got them all and said, "You're going to help me build this monument for my dad."
And they done it.
And they done it. They had to do it. You know, that says a lot about the man, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, mate.
Must have been about 10-year-old. I was out and about with him as a boy is with his father. And I was at one of his friends' houses, and as a boy, you just sat there, right? You're just trying to not be noisy, sat there nice and polite. And just I heard the back of the conversation that when he come out of the shovel, i.e. when he come out of the jail. And then on the ride home, I asked him, have you been to jail, Dad? And he starts laughing, and then a couple of days later he sat me down and told me a few ins and outs. But I know it was watered down, I was still a baby. But then as you get older, you realise yourself then. When you go places.
Yeah.
When you go places.
As you got older, Ben, did you start like hearing the different stories from people?
It was more his friends. All his friends was like, a lot of his friends were a lot older than himself. And I mean like 20 years, there was old men compared to him. And they used to call at the house, and I'd be making them a couple of pots of tea and everything. And you just hear conversations, and they come here, let me tell you about this. I mean, there was a guy called Johnny Thunder. He was like a grandfather to me, to us all. And my father met him when he was 12 years old on the camp. And to get away from the camp for a while, he hid under a load of old carpets in the back of the van. And on the way down to a fair, because Thunder was going to work a fair, he popped up, I'm come to work with you for a bit. And just things like that. And then them stories lead into other stories about when he was fighting, when he was 12 years old and he was fighting for money. Like he said, he documents that on his documentary.
Did you ever see from a young age your dad being violent?
No, never once seen my dad be. My dad didn't need to be violent. When my dad come into a room, he commanded the room. He'd had his respect from his younger days. But no, I've never seen my dad being violent. Obviously, we've seen him sparring and things in the gym, but I've never seen him violent. My dad instilled fear into people. If there was a problem, and you'd know there was a problem, you know.
Do you think when he was chucking the men in with you, Dougie, as I mean, fucking hell, 15-year-old fighting grown men?
Yeah.
Do you think he was kind of testing you?
He was definitely testing me, yeah. King can tell you every one of the boxers he threw me in with. He threw me in with some good, hard, strong men.
Yeah.
He came across as a hard man right from start. I could see how people behaved around him. Everyone pretty much was scared. Everyone petrified. It was Wayne's show. Everything that Wayne said goes. And for me, it was natural because where I grew up, everyone's pretty much like that. He's rough and ready. So people like Wayne, for me, was like just the only difference was the language. I couldn't speak the language back then.
I've got a few stories. I don't want to say too much on camera, but I've got a few stories. I'll tell you one, a funny one. I was in Wayne's one time because he turned the club into the Starlight.
Yeah.
Starlight Club. Gone in, having a party, everyone's having a party. He had a proper good little do in there. So there was these local mobs, or whatever they want to call themselves, idiots, big fully outgrown men, but going around bullying people from pub to pub. So Wayne said, I've got an issue down at the front door. It was me, my brother Johnny, and a very good friend of mine, Willie Collins. He was there as well, as a matter of fact, yeah. And gone downstairs to see these fellas, see what the crack was. And he was starting to bounce at the front door. I've just gone straight over to him. Yeah, I said, which one's the tough one? He said, you. He said, so I've just put straight on him. 1, 2, left hook. Just watched him drop like a fucking, do you know what I mean, in the middle of the road. My brother Johnny got stuck into the other fellas, flattened them. So obviously Wayne's panicking, running around, trying to calm us down, stopping everything. Obviously he's pulled us around to the corner. Johnny's kicking off with someone else around the corner now, because that was it. Then he started, so we wanted more. And then obviously something dropped down his leg. Yeah, and then he's hopping around like fucking John Wayne. Yeah, trying to get it back up his leg. So that was the funny part of the story. Then we got back in, but that was one to be told.
Do you think Wayne respected you, Dougie, for the fact that you took no shit?
He did. He said he treated me like a son. He used to say, he said, Dougie, you're like one of my boys, even though he's never my father.
Yeah,
obviously my father's my father.
Yeah, yeah.
And no one will ever take his place for that. But Wayne, yes, he was a good man. Good crack. I had a lot of time for Wayne.
Wayne, it was like, you either hate him or you love him. There's no in between with Wayne. And I had a lot of time with him, and we had good times traveling all over the country, fighting. And how we used to plug our way in to get a fight. We used to, on the phone, tell people that, these African guys, I hard to find in UK now, they don't even train hard, and loads of like stories that they're not true. And I used to leave in the gym. I was proper fit, and he was just doing that so he could get a fight. And he was just, and Wayne is one of them. He'd sell anything, do anything for money. And he used to do it well. It was character.
I was about 16-year-old, and we was kind of, well, we used to knock around in the streets and stuff like that. And I was on kind of like a youth offenders team. So this particular day, they used to take me like on trips like to Walton Towers and days out and stuff like that. This particular day, they took us to the gym. So Wayne had a gym in Droylsden called Fighting Fit. So they took us to the gym there. I spent about a week there, and Wayne just pulled me to a side kind of thing, and just said, you know, do you want a box? Now I could fight a little bit, and you know, he's you know, I was tall, gangly, skinny at the time, and he said, you know, do you want to keep coming back? And he gave me time, and from there on, I'd stayed in that gym for 5 or 6 years after that. But yeah, that's how we met. I kind of was on a youth offenders team. I'd gone to the gym, you know, and he's took me under his wing.
James walked in one time, and he wanted money off his father. Yeah, and his father said, "What do you think I am?" Yeah. So anyways, I want some money, this, that and the other. He said, "Do you want some money?" He said, "There's a young lad in there." He said, "He's knocking all my boxes out." He says, "Get in there and I'll give you 500 quid." Got in there, yeah, that was it. That's how James got to know me.
So that's how you met James, the boy?
Yeah, and then that was it then for his sons and the boys. But we had a good relationship, yeah.
Did you hear about Wayne's reputation before? Did you know about Wayne's reputation before you went to the boxing, Aaron?
I didn't at all, mate. No, I did afterwards, but obviously I was only a young lad. I was only 16-year-old, you know. So I wasn't kind of in them circles. Obviously, Wayne was obviously older than I was. I've heard of his lads, his sons, the Barkers, but never heard the reputation, obviously, that, you know, that Wayne had, until obviously meeting him, and then obviously finding out things about him and his past, and you know. But before I didn't really know him, to be honest with you.
Can you honestly say, Kane, that truthfully, that your dad, a lot of people probably feared your dad more than liked your dad, or do you think it was half and half?
I think there was my dad was a feared man, but he was also a respected man, and he was a liked man. You know, he was a fair man, he was a gentleman. You know, and when he had to turn to that, he did. But it was very rare. You might see me dad shout and scream and go on, but you know, no, I think it was a lot more of respect and like, more than fear.
Yeah.
But there was that fear factor there with anyone, with us as children, with our families, with people, anyone around, anyone that would talk to you about my father, and he couldn't lie and said he wasn't, because that's what it was. And he was a one-man band. If he landed on you, you'd know about it.
Would you have classed Wayne as a gangster?
Yeah.
Very connected man in the underworld.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you know, I've been in the gym, because I was in the gym every day. You know, if it wasn't training, I was sat on the sofa watching boxing videos all day. So I've seen people come through that door and leave through. Do you know what I mean? I've been around it all and I've seen it all. So if you're asking me, would you class him as a gangster? Then yes, I'd class him as a gangster. Yes, 100%.
You know what I mean? Even when he was poor, when he was dying, he was still making deals. He was still out and about doing stuff. So me as a young man, you just got to work. And that's what he instilled in me.
So really, he's instilled discipline from a young age, mate.
Oh yeah, very. He was disciplined, and he taught us life lessons that sometimes children shouldn't have these life lessons sometimes. But looking back, they stood us all in good stead, and I wouldn't change any of it. Because like you say, that's how he was brought up, and you don't know any better at the time, but it was great.
Honestly, Dougie, would you class Wayne as a gangster?
Gangster? Well, I wouldn't really class him a gangster. I'd say he had his finger into a lot of pies, put it that way. I don't like using the phrase as gangster, but he was well connected.
Yeah. What do you think you learned from him, Dougie, growing up?
I learned a lot.
Gyms?
I learned a lot once now. I learned to take a lot what's now, and they give a lot as well.
What would you say to anybody that says the Barker family are gangsters?
I don't think they're gangsters. My dad portrays that name. My dad was a gangster in his own right, you know, and that was just their error. You know, he's been brought up around them. My grandfather was a face, you know. My great-grandfather, Potty Barker, he was a serious man. In the 60s and the 70s, he had all the taxi ranks in Piccadilly and all the prostitutes and all that. He ran all them. And you would have seen that big old coat I've got. That coat goes in 4 generations, big old tweed coat, and that was Potty Barker's coat. And he used to wrap it around my father's legs when he was in the car and around the town with him as a kid. And obviously it went down to my father, and then my father had it tailored for me. But yeah, we're not gangsters. My father might have been classed as a face or a bit of a villain, but I think me and my brothers, we get tarnished with that because of obviously my father's name, but we're not gangsters, mate. We're just trying to get rich. That's all I'm trying to do.
Is it true, Kane, that the rumours are that your father, with the boxing gym in Droylsden, is it true that when there was beef, he used to close the doors and let the lads sort it out bare-knuckle in the ring?
Yeah, there's been a few occasions of that. There's been a few occasions as well when we turned the boxing club into a nightclub and moved the boxing into the back room. Boxing club weren't really making as much money, so he put that off into the back and he turned the whole venue into a nightclub. And he ran that on a licence. It was called the Starlight Rooms. I used to run it for him. I was the bar and floor manager at 17-year-old. It was great. It was the roughest club in the city. It was guaranteed 3 fights a night. And there's been times in there when them shutters have come down, like we was on the top floor, so you had like 10 flights of stairs to get down. Them shutters had come down at a night when there was the locking. If you had the trouble on the top floor, you was a problem, because you'd get it at the top and you come down into a closed shutter and you'd get it again at the bottom and kicked out on the street, you know. But yeah, there's been a few occasions.
I used to tell me stories that he grew up traveling. Now I've jumped with 2 and 2 together. Not now, later, but 12 years down the line, when I start putting 2 and 2 together, him growing up with Vinny and all the rest of the traveler community, and the stuff they used to they get up to and that. So it was later, because at start it was hard for me because I was learning. It was came back because I used to wind me up, teach me how to speak English. He used to tell me, and Kane was only 10, 11 back then.
Yeah.
And Kane used to tell me, say this, say that. I used to say it. I didn't know what I was saying. And everyone was laughing. I was thinking, this kid is taking a mick out of me. And that's how I learned how to speak. It was in the gym actually that I learned how to speak English. So,
see, in the UK, Paulie, in the UK, the travelling community they're all bred to fight.
Yeah, they are different from back home.
Yeah.
Back home, they don't fight you with their hands. They shoot you or they stab you, but then they're not gonna fight. It's not like it's different breed there.
So the travelling community back in Portugal, they don't fight, they just shoot you.
No, they don't shoot you or stab you.
Really?
They don't fight with your hands. No, they don't. They're not the type of, but they don't fight with your hands. They stab you on the neck or they try to shoot you, and they shoot you quick. They shoot you quick.
Would you say Wayne was known to fight with his fists as a fighting man?
Yeah, it was hardcore. He will listen, any issue, anything, he will automatically say, come to my gym, and we just close the doors and we just straight things up. It wouldn't take him long to say that to someone.
Yeah.
And he will snap rapid. It wouldn't take him much to snap.
So if there was a problem in Wayne's company, he would sort it out in the gym with the 2 lads that had the problem?
Oh yeah, quick. Oh yeah, it wouldn't take any. And sometimes they'll never have gloves on. No gloves.
Really?
Wrap your hands if you want, or put some tape around your knuckles and your wrists. Jump in the ring and that's it. Close the door so no one can interrupt, and just crack on.
Is that what people did, Paulie? You know, if people had beef, would they go to Wayne would Wayne see fair play between 2 guys in the gym?
Oh, that used to happen quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah?
Quite a lot. Yeah. Close doors and after that just go 4 pints and it's all sorted.
So Wayne would make sure that the problem was sorted in the gym and left there.
And that's it, yeah. And that's it.
Did you ever feel a pressure
to live up to your father's reputation or not?
No, because I was never under pressure to anything from a very young age. I was encouraged to go and do sports. As soon as I left school, the 2 days after my birthday, my 16th birthday, I was in the Army Careers office in Manchester outside the Midland Hotel, and he was signing me up to the Marines. I had no choice in the matter. I was there. I was going in the Marines, and what his ethics was that I'm going to go in the Marines and I'm going to box, and I'm going to go around the world boxing. So I signed up to the Marines. I got all the detailed training program, which we was training every day anyway. So that wasn't different, but it was the set program for the Marines. So I've gone in there, got all that. I had to go back and had to sit a test, a written test. Maths, science, English and mechanical comprehension. And I failed on the science. And at the time I was gutted because you can only ever take the test twice. And my dad was fuming with me, absolutely fuming, because he wanted me to go in and he knew I could pass it, but I failed it. I've never been so happy to fail a test in my life because I didn't want to go in the Marines, but I had no choice in the matter. Like, if I would have passed that test, I would have been in the Marines, signed up.
Did when you first moved to England, Paulie, did you not really pick up on Wayne's reputation until years later when you started understanding the language?
No, at first I didn't pick absolutely nothing. I couldn't understand nothing. The only thing I could read was body language in terms of, I used to get in the ring, I could tell that everyone wanted to take my head off and I was taking their heads off. That's the only thing. And when he used to buzz out of it, he used to knock people out in the gym, and he's just there at night time with the camera that he had over the ring. He's bringing all his friends drinking and laughing over the knockouts that happened today. But I didn't realize till later stage that reputation that he had. When I start getting more understanding and start hanging about more with him, going out with him in town, and that's when I start realizing the type of person he was.
Yeah, Kane told me, Aaron, that you travelled around a lot boxing with him.
Yeah, so when Wayne took me under his wing, I was like I said, I was 16-year-old, and he treated me like his lad. So, you know, he was a father figure to me, and he didn't want me to turn professional that young. Obviously, when I was 18, I needed some amateur experience. But he didn't want me to go down the unlicensed route, so we went down the amateur route instead. So we got teamed up with a club called Northside in Clayton, which is based in Manchester. But obviously I trained at Wayne's gym. So we fought for about 2 years, up and down the country, every week fighting. You know, might have been in Leicester one week, Birmingham the other week. And that's pretty much how it started, really. We were taking these amateur fights and we was fighting it every week all over the country. So yeah, it was good. Yeah, we went all over together.
No, do you know when you were like, the more you got to know Wayne, Aaron, and you were fighting for him, did you ever feel under pressure to perform when you were fighting?
Yes, because he's obviously with him being a trainer. He's not wanting, because he puts a lot into you. You don't want to let him down. Do you know what I mean? You know, he's watching you, and he was a winner. Do you know what I mean? He put a lot into the lads. You know, he wasn't a loser. He was a winner. So when we went out there and performed, not just me, everyone who he trained, you'd want to impress him because you'd want to make him smile, and he didn't fucking smile that much. It was that, you know, But when you've done well, or you've made his night, or something like that, you know, he was the nicest person you'd ever meet. Yeah. But yeah, every time anything, it wasn't just. It was inspiring as well. You know, I'd spar professionals when I was an amateur, and I remember this one time I'm sparring this pro. You know, it's a seasoned pro. He's probably ranked number in top 15 in the country, and I've knocked this kid out. And he just jumped in the ring and went, "I fucking love you." So I was thinking, fucking hell, you know, I've impressed him there. But to get that kind of reaction from your performances, yeah, you know, you want to go out and you want to do impressive.
I learned a lot of life lessons from my father. I remember once in the club, and he had these men round, and I always wanted to be involved. There was always that kid that wanted to be earwigging and seeing what's going on. There was always, you know, and he used to say, like, go out and make us a cup of tea. And I'd be fuming about it. Fucking pissed me off, that. Like, go make him look like my little Joey or something, you know. And then one day I said, no, I'm not doing it. He was like, you didn't say no to me, that, you know. What do you mean no? So I said, I'm not doing it. I said, come out here. So we come out into the hallway of the club. I said, listen, I'm not fucking Joey, fucking making cups of tea and all that. He said, you fucking do as you told me, get in there and make a fucking cup of tea. And I was like 18-year-old at this time. I'm thinking, I'm a fucking grown man, you're telling me what to do. And sorry, let me turn this off. And when the boys went that day, he was only old friends of his, you know.
Yeah.
But I just like the stories and listen to the chats and that. And he said, listen, he says, no man will ever treat you like that again. And he's done it for reasons, and there was a bit of weird reasons, and I think about him today, how do you even do that? But he's right, because I won't let no man ever treat me in any sort of way like that again. There was a time when we'd had an argument, you know, and he told me to do something, and I'd asked him for money for it, but I'd done the same thing the following week for someone else for free, and he'd proper seen his arse about, like, you're going out doing that for free, and you're hitting me up for money. And he got me back for it, and he made me. I'd done a week in the club painting and fucking about cleaning glasses. And when I come to the Friday, I said, right, I need some wages. He said, you've had a lesson this week. You didn't confirm what you wanted for your week, so you're not getting paid. And I was fuming about it, and I was proper fuming about it. And he said, no man will, no, you'll never work for a man again. And I remember a couple of years later, I was only young then, and a couple of years later, I'd done a job for a man. And this come into my head straight away, and the guy's like, right, you can wheelbarrow this. So I was only walking past the cafe, only young 14, 15-year-old, walk past the cafe, seeing someone doing a bit of stoning in the garden. So I'll give you a hand. It's fucking 10 or 15 quid a day. And he's like, right, well, I'll give you 20 quid a day, yeah, but you've got to do 2 days. So I said, right. And then halfway through the day, I clocked on to what was going on. So I was like, right, I need paying today. He paid at the end of every day. So he paid me for 2 days, and he went on to the third day. And he tried not paying me for the third day. Cocked me, one of my older brother's friends, James's friends, said, come with me a minute. And we went there and we landed on it, we got a few rakes out of the back of his van and fucking chased him around the garden for 20 quid. I thought that was proper funny. And I went back and I was proud about that moment, and I went back and I told my dad, and he said, I told you learnt a lesson there. He said, you'll never let any other man take the piss out of you again.
So if you think about it, Kane, there was a method to your dad's madness.
Everything was a method.
So it was learning you really to take responsibility.
My father, he was mad when we look back on things now. He was on things years before money earners, the waste job, you know. He done a job in the town centre, in Manchester town centre, behind Strangeways, before anyone was on that job. And he earned a couple of million quid out of it, and he was 4 guys in. And you know, it's mad how fucking 8 years later I'm in that job, and I'm doing them jobs now, you know. And it's just, they've all just fell into place like that, and it's a crazy thing. It's a crazy thing how his earns are only just coming out 10 years on, you know.
Do you ever think, Ken, learning from your dad from a really young age? I mean, he's obviously brought you up with discipline, mate, from an early age. Do you ever think with seeing your dad's reputation and the fear that he carried, and people, like, you know, obviously people were feared of him, do you think it kind of made you kind of a cold person,
No, totally opposite. You see, my older brother James, I think James got that trait, you know. I always smile, I'm a likeable person, and my dad told me that from a young age. He said, never lose that. He says, me and James have got it where people are afraid of us, or he says, you've got it where people actually like you, you smile a lot, you know, you're a likeable person. He said, never lose that, and I never have lost it. And you've seen today, I've got a lot of friends and people that I like to be around me. I'm a likeable person. I'm not a dickhead, you know. I can be a dickhead when I want to be, but I'm not, you know. I'm a gentleman, I'm a nice person.
Wayne's love of fighting resulted in him fall foul of the law and end up in prison. Whilst on remand in Strangeways prison, he found himself locked in a cell with a man who murdered the child of a family friend.
What had happened was 2 guys in a stolen car was driving through Whalley Range, and some young boys had been scrumping apples, throwing them at cars, taking a chunk out and throwing them at cars, as kids do. The car stops, 2 men get out and chase these boys. no one knows who actually threw the apple at that particular car, but the one they actually caught was Lewiston Pantry, and one held him and the other one stabbed him 7 or 9 times. The boy climbed over the wall and died in the vicar's, in the church garden. The reverend or the vicar was watering his plants. A lot of people come to my cell at 4:30 when they open you up for your tea. This kid was too scared to go down for his tea. So I've stopped the people coming in the cell. No, leave him, this is me, I'm dealing with this. And I put everyone away from the cell. And I've made the kid feel a bit secure that I'm going to protect him. I had no intention of protecting him. I was livid, I was young, I was stupid, I was headstrong. And I'm not bragging about what I did. But in the same, I don't feel no regrets for what I did, if that makes any kind of sense, because this nasty, evil man had killed a little boy. And I beat him up and I'd done some nasty things to him. He sustained a lot of pain and a lot of injuries, no facial injuries. It was all done systematically, you know. I cut him with razor blades, I sliced him, naughts and crosses, cut skin off his feet. It was a bit sick really when I talk about it, but that's what I did. And I cut sheets up and I bandaged him up. And I told him if he told anyone, you know, he'd get seriously dealt with. And he didn't tell anybody for, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks. And the only way he come to tell anybody was he went to a court appearance, and the social workers was wanting to give him some clothing, wanting to change clothes, and he wanted to do it in private. He wasn't allowed to do it in private, and the social workers made him take his shirt off. When he took his shirt off, he's seen all these handmade bandages where he's wrapped up on his arms and his legs and his body. And he said, what are these? And he's ripped them off, and he's obviously opened all the wounds up, which have become infected because they've not been treated. And then he come in and he told them, Wayne Barker's done this and this and this and this and this, bang, bang, bang. Next thing I know, the screws come to my cell, they take me out, bang, they take me down into an office, into an interview room, I get interviewed. Gareth Hughes, my lawyer, was there. And I was subsequently charged with attempted murder.
Do you think your father was a psychopath?
I don't think he was a psychopath, but I think he was, when he wanted to be nasty, he could be nasty. When he needed to turn on, he turned on, and he turned on in a very, very strong way.
Where do you think that came from, Ken? Because I've spoke to so many people during this documentary, and everyone speaks highly of your dad, saying he was a gentleman, he was a nice man. But where do you think that? Talking about torturing someone, fucking putting crosses into people's bodies, where would that come from?
Well, there's a lot of things that people don't know about my dad, about my dad's upbringing. And my dad had a hard life, a really hard life from a young age, from a boy. You know, I'm not going to go into detail with it because I don't want to badmouth anybody, especially my family. But my dad had a hard life, a very, very hard life, and he was made to grow up well beyond his years, beyond his age. And I think that's where it's come from, to be honest with you. I think that's where it come from. You know, he was deposited on a gypsy encampment, age 12-year-old. That alone is terrifying to anyone. I've got a 12-year-old boy now. If I dropped him off at your house and made him stay there behind his eyes out, let alone gypsy encampment, do you know what I mean? And he was taught to fight, and he was up and down all the horse fairs, up and down the country, Ireland, and he travelled all over the world fighting.
Have you got a story, Ben? Have you got any stories about your dad that stand out in your head?
Well, we was on holiday in Fuerteventura. I was in holiday in Fuerteventura for Christmas and New Year. I was only about 14, 15 at the time, and I had as you're on holiday, I had a few beers one night and got a little bit drunk. Now, I was sparring, boxing from being 10-year-old. When my dad opened the gym, I was training with professional boxers from being a very young age. My brother James We used to train with him every day, you know, a very, very good boxer, and others in the gym. So, because I've had a few drinks on holiday, we're walking back to the hotel one night after going for food. We flew back into Manchester on the Saturday. The following Tuesday, there was a boxing event on in Blackpool at the Tower. And because he was a little bit annoyed with me, he was like, right, you're fighting on Tuesday at such and such a time. You're going to Blackpool and you're going to fight this man. So, you know, blah, blah, blah. All right, okay, when you take him out? He went, no, he was going somewhere else. He wasn't going to be there. So he sent me there with my brothers, my grandfather, my papa, and one of his friends. I can't think of his name. Anyway. So yeah, I had to go there. I got a day off school for it. I was going to have my first unlicensed fight. And I think I was only 14. You know what I mean? So I've gone there. I'm on the phone to my dad. I'd just go there, have a fight. But I knew he sent me because I wound him up. I knew he sent me because he wound me up. So I've gone there. Dave Murray fought on the bill as well, as I remember. I went out, fought first, and he fought after me. And I went in there, had a fight. And he was on the phone to my brother the whole way through my fight. Wayne, he wasn't there, but he was on the phone to Wayne, I recall it. I knocked the guy out in about 40 seconds. He's come out, he's hit me. Bearing in mind, I've sparred all my life. I've had fights, as you do as a young boy. But it was just something about it. I've gone in, love boxing. But I've gone in there and the guy just hit me. I missed with a jab and he hit me twice. Slap bang in the middle of my head. I didn't like it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover. He hit me twice, slap bang in the middle of the head. I did not like it, I promise you now. So I just charged at him like a bum, unleashed the fury on him and just fucking sent him in. And he just collapsed on the floor. It was over in about 30 seconds, 40 seconds if that. I got £350 and I went back to Manchester. I was buzzing. And my dad, he's watched me win triathlons. He's watched me win basketball games, football games. But when I seen my father, I've never seen him so proud as what he was there. And because he's been a fighter and he's done fighting and all that, he was just happy. He was very happy to see, which, you know, everything's out there, and he's this and he's that, but he was also a loving, caring father. And, you know, that's what I want to put on record, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As what he is. You talk about discipline. I did a triathlon in Salford, the Salford triathlon. I've always been a terrible runner. Kane takes a piss out, James takes it, because James can run marathons for fun. I can't, I've always been the bigger one. I could never, I do it, but I've not been the best. And on the triathlon, I'm winning in the swimming. On the cycling, I'm winning. On the running, I'm winning. I've got about another half a mile to do with the race or the run. And I come third. Bearing in mind, third's a good achievement out of 500 people. They have to do it, they do 50 at one stage, 50 at other, and there's like 10 stages. And out of the whole of the rest of the day, they tally it up and you get your winners. I come third out of that. My dad was pissed off, to say the least. And you talk about, because I couldn't run, he took me to a hill in Salford, after my triathlon, and made me run up the hill. And as I'm going up the hill, I'm going round I think I'm at the top, and then you go round the bend, and I've got another 2 miles to go up the hill. And my dad sat there in the car, driving at the side of me, and I'm running up the hill. You'll learn to run. You've got to learn to run. Breathe. And he's doing everything, like showing me how to do it. But it was just the discipline that, you know, we had to do. Yeah. Any other child in the world would have sat on the side of the road and threw a tantrum and had a paddy. If I would have done that, I would have got a belt. We didn't get them that often, but when you got them, you know you got one.
Yeah.
And it's just things like that, little things like that, just discipline. Getting up in the morning, you weren't allowed to stay. He was a military. Bearing in mind, he'd never been in the army or any military service whatsoever. If you was in bed past 6, 7 o'clock, don't matter what day it was, it could be your birthday, it could be Christmas Day. all you hear is rise and shine. That's all you got.
Yeah.
And like you say, it was just very disciplined from a young age. And it's fun.
Go on, Ben, say it again.
We're not too bad now. You know, there's a few of us knocking about, and we're not doing too bad.
My best memory was, bloody hell, Jesus. We've been all over together.
Not many.
We've been all over together. I mean, one what sticks out to me is my first amateur fight, because we trained for a long time. We trained for a long time. Obviously, I'm coming from nothing really. So he's trained me. You know, probably been training for 12 months, and it was my first ever fight with him. So we travelled to, I think it was Leicester. So you know, we boxed this local kid. It was absolutely packed out, this arena where this local kid was from. And it was my first fight for him, so I ended up knocking this kid out in I think it was the third round, like that, and you know, he was over the moon. He was, you know, you could see, you know, all that hard work's paid off, and you know, we had a great week after that. And yeah, I think that's just one of them memories. Obviously, the first fight we had, you know, you could see the happiness, and yeah, that's kind of one of them what sticks out in my head.
Just to finish off, Ben, how would you describe your dad?
That's a good question, that. There's a lot of things that caring, but loving, caring, and discipline. That's it. That's it. And, you know, he taught us things that, you know, fathers don't teach children normally. But it's good. We probably didn't need to know it at that age, but we did need to know it later on in life, which, that's that.
Got a lot of good memories of Wayne Barker.
What stands out the most for you?
One where he took me to my first fight. He told me a little lie, little white lie. What's that? I was only 15. He said I had a fella 17 that I'm fighting. I was only 10.5 stone. I get there, the fella's 26 years of age, nearly 14 stone. He's a big man compared to me. Got in there and punches come straight in from 3 rounds, and that was it. Obviously, Wayne knew that I could do it. Shook a bit of the cobwebs off, got straight in and got stuck in.
I've spoke to like some of the lads dug you through this documentary and stuff, like some of the fighting lads, the boxers and stuff. Did you ever feel when you were fighting for Wayne that you were like maybe trying even harder to impress him?
No, we just got it done, because the kind of thing is with him, he just didn't take fucking shit, or he didn't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Get in there, get it done, and stop moaning about it. Or you get a kick up the arse.
For me, was, well, he helped me as much as he could, and I learned a lot from him. And now, on my daily basis as a coach, there's a lot of things that he's done in the past for me, with me, that I'm taking into to the kids that I fight now. So him is just, is that I hate you or you love, but finding that one particular way to describe Wayne. It was intense. It was loud. At times it could be intimidating. If you're the type of person that you allow yourself to get intimidated by how someone comes across or looks. So, because me personally, because of my background, it didn't intimidate him at all. It was just Wayne. So I've seen people when he started raising his voice, he shrink. And I used to laugh when he started raising his voice. He just made me laugh. He's like, oh, you don't get pissed off. There's nothing to get pissed off. It's like, it's one thing that I know. If time comes, if we have to fight, we fight. It is what it is. But if he doesn't get to that, if he just talk, we just talk. But then I don't talk back. I just listen. When you think, shut up. If you think you're right. And a lot of times I used to trust him when he tells me, well, this is that, and that's that, that's green, that's yellow, that's black. And I say, okay, no problem. I never like debate with him. Well, even if I feel like it's not right, I feel all right. But he's probably doing the best interest for me at the time, because the money that I was getting paid for the fight I was doing, it was more than what I was back home, because back home I was fighting for free. So getting a bit more, to go across the ring and fight someone. I was made up. £1,000 for me was a lot of money back then.
Yeah. So really, anybody that Wayne took under his wing, he always had their best interests at heart.
Yeah, he had his interest, he had their interest, and it was both. He's making sure that he's getting what he wants to get. But on the other side, he did used to look. It's only a few people that I've seen that Wayne looked after, and one of them, I can say, he did look after me. I could see that he used to treat me different from how he used to treat most of the people around him. Like, I could say he used to treat me like he used to treat his own kids. He probably used to treat me better than his own kids sometimes. He used to be quite hard on them. But I grew up with that, so I kind of liked the way he treated me. So, and every time I asked him for something, he just did it without questioning. So,
do you can you see a lot of Wayne in Kane?
Oh, big time, a lot.
Would you say Kane's took the mantle now? He's taken over his father's.
He took everything: the looks, the swag, the talk, the behavior, the business mindset. He took the whole lot. Out of all the brothers, yeah, Kane is the one that talked the most. Yeah.
Can you would you say, Aaron, that Kane reminds you a lot of Wayne?
Oh, 100%. You know, Kane's, every time you look at him, you just see Wayne. Every time, you know, if there's one of them who acts like him, talks like him, stands like him, you know, it's Kane. It's Kane, 100%.
With Wayne Barker, Aaron, would you say he was well liked because he was a nice man, or because he was feared because he was a hard man?
I think it was a bit of both, to be honest with you. I think if you didn't know him, he might have had this reputation of kind of being a hard man or a bit of a bully, or, you know, he'll knock you out, this and that. That's if you didn't know him. But if you actually know him, he comes across a different person. You know, he's a kind man, or he was a kind man. You know, but saying that, yeah, you know, it can be a nasty man. He is an hard man, but he's, you know, there's also a nice side to him as well. But if you didn't know him, then, and you just heard about him or heard the stories about him, you'll just think, oh, he's an hard man. You know, I've got to like him because he's an hard man. But, you know, it's a bit of both, I would say. A bit of both, really.
All I'm hearing, I hear all these good stories. I mean, everyone's got a good word to say about Wayne Barker, but then I'm thinking to myself, are they saying that because they're scared of the reputation, or they're saying that because they actually got on with Wayne? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I know a lot of people knew Wayne. You know, he was well respected, but a lot of people, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of people probably didn't like him. I don't know. You know, just because of his reputation and what he, you know, what people have heard about him. But again, you don't know, do you? You don't know. But again, until you actually know him, you know, there's two sides to him. You know, he is an hard man, but he was a nice man as well. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, everyone tried to impress him. Everybody. You know, he was a man that you'd want to put, you know, you'd want to make him smile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, you know, you looked up to him. You know, everybody looked up to him. You know, and you'd want him to speak highly of you.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody was out to impress him. Really, everybody was out to impress him. 100%.
Following his eventual release from prison, Barker returned to the ring, turned professional, and travelled to America to box in some of the country's most famous gyms. He went on to fight in Venezuela against the world super middleweight champion Fulgencio Obel. But when he returned to the UK, he was forced to face his most formidable opponent, cancer.
I thought my party was over, and I was in a very, 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 very strange place, mentally. And they let me out after about 6 or 7 days, as soon as I could go to the bathroom properly. And I come out and I had staples all up here. And the first day out, I got in my Land Rover and I come from my house to the club. It's just normal. Some friends took me out for some lunch. And I walked a mile. I thought I'll leave my car there and I'm going to walk home. I'd gone down to about 9.5 stone. So I walked just about a mile, and I had to phone my wife to come and collect me. And I was fucked.
Frankie Fraser's son David got to know Wayne over the years and went to visit him just before he died.
I was absolutely shocked, man. I was really shocked. Because when you go in his house, there's a photograph of him as a very healthy man as a fighter. And he's an healthy man in the photograph. And when I walked into the room, he was a shell of a man, very thin, very pale. And he was dying, and he knew he was dying. But his pride and his courage that was with him, and he had a lovely, lovely, caring family, and they was with him all the way. And it was sad to see him like that. And of course, the memories of Jack brought back to us as well. And I always remember when we went back home, back in Roy's car, going back down towards London, it was a very quiet journey, and no one wouldn't say nothing. It was very, very somber. We was hurt. We was hurt to see our friend Harry was. Then eventually, I always remember this, Wayne saying to me, we went downstairs and we were sitting there talking, actually into one of the rooms downstairs. I think you might have seen him when he was laid out in his coffin in that room. That's the room where we were sitting and talking to him. And Wayne was still trying to put deals together. And we were putting deals together, and he said, I'll phone you up later, and et cetera, you know. But I knew deep inside that he was dying, and it wouldn't be long. Then we get the phone call a week or so later that he died. And, well, I was heartbroken, to be honest with you. I really choked, because he just was one of those people I bonded with as a closeness. And I went to the funeral, me, Roy Hilder, Darky Smith, and an ex-fighter called Eric. And we travelled up there, spent the night in a hotel, and then we went to the funeral the next day, but it was very sad.
My dad had a way about him where he could take everything off you and you'd still be his best mate. You'd still want to go and pay for his lunch tomorrow morning. And that's just how it was. That was Barker rights, really.
So see, you know when your dad walked in a room, did he have an order about him where it drew people to him?
Oh yeah, he couldn't be missed, could he?
No, you definitely couldn't miss him.
Loudest one in the room.
Yeah, he was the loudest one in
Definitely,
the room.
you'd hear him a mile away.
Very boisterous, Dougie.
Yeah, always laughing, always shouting. You'd definitely hear him. His presence was always known.
Even if he was quiet, he's just the aura of the man, you know.
You could smell him. As soon as you
Yeah,
walked in, you could smell
you
him.
could.
Tiger balm all over.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I've learned doing this podcast is the name Barker still commands respect in Manchester. Wayne Barker has left a legacy. He's still respected, and many people still look up to the name Wayne Barker. When Wayne passed, he left 6 beautiful children behind. James, Wayne, Kane, Benjamin, Henry, and his only daughter Charlotte. Wayne would be very proud of what his kids have achieved in life today.